Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Uh, today's a nice day out right now, but it was really cold out this morning. It's a bit cool right now, that's why I got a sweater on. Anyway, today I want to basically show you how to use a saw, a circular saw it's called, and so I have an electric one here, and I'll just pick it up. It's on the ground. So this is a DeWalt, I believe it's an 8-inch blade. So there's the blade right there, and you change the blade. There's a screw right here that you would change the blade once it wears out. And I'd like to speak into the fact that there are so many people, a lot of women that think that they can't do certain jobs because it's complicated or whatever the case might be. You know, my little granddaughter and my grandson, lots of guys have never used a circular saw, never cut wood or anything like that before. So I'd like to speak into those individuals that think that they can't do it. This is just a simple little job. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I never worked in construction before, and until 4 years ago, I really never did any sort of carpentry or construction work, but I did build my own tiny house. And you can learn, right? That's a big job and probably once in a lifetime thing that I'll never do again. And towards the end of it, I did obviously have some people helping me put the rafters up and things like that, and along the way some help here and there, but for the most part I'm the one that put the flooring and the frame together and put up all that stuff. So this is just a basic little lesson, I guess, that inside I'm working on a little project that I'm basically building a structure over top of my countertop, where my sink is and the countertop. And if you haven't seen the previous videos, you can go have a look at that and see what the cabinets that were on the partial wall looked like, and the fact that I took down that wall. And so some of the wood here that you see behind me leaned up against the house is some of that wood that came out of that wall. This wood is what's called rough lumber, and this is the type of job that obviously you don't need to have it meet building codes or anything like that. It's just a simple little structure that's going over top of my countertop. So anyway, that's what we're speaking about today, and I have a few things lined up. When it comes to using a circular saw, now there are some attachments here that will allow you to change the angle and whatnot of the blade. For the purpose of today, we don't need to get into any of that. We're just basically making a straight cut. We're measuring what I want. Lots of people like to have different plans and things like that. Well, this is, like I said, a simple little job. My plan, where'd my paper go? I wrote down my measurements. Basically the 4 legs, what I'm calling the 4 legs that I'm using, rough cut lumber 2x4s, is going to be 76 inches. And then the 2 top pieces that are going to hold those 4 legs up is going to be 97 inches going across. So that's the only plan that I need. So basically, what I've done here on a few of these pieces of boards, you can see the different lengths. So basically we need 4 legs. 2 of them I've already cut, and I've left one to show you what it is that I want to do. So we're just going to set this up right here for now. And I've gone ahead and I'm going to have to move some of these things out of my way as well. So I've cut, I've used my square. This is called a square. And I basically squared each end. I cut the end pieces off. And what we want to do is we want to measure. And the reason that you cut things off is for this particular reason. This is an end piece that I cut off. I wasn't able to get this screw out, and obviously it's not usable in that condition. So I cut that off, and that just goes in my wheelbarrow like so, and it's going to go to my burn pile. So basically what I want to do is I want to measure this out, and again, always look at your measurements. We want 76 inches across. And you want to look at the board because this is rough lumber, and because the wall itself, the partial wall that I had up, was not mounted correctly to the other existing wall across from it. Some of my wood warped. Three pieces actually in particular have quite a warp to them. So you have to choose the right pieces, right? So you just basically look at the wood, and you want to see what's your straightest line. And this one here happens to have quite a few knots on that end. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take off, just looking here now. Yeah, so it's warping up at that end. So what I want to do is I want to measure from this side. I'm just going to go, yeah, of course. Let's move a few of these things out of the way. So we want to bring it across, and I'm going to have to look at my note again. We want to do 76 inches. So we bring it over here. There's the 76 mark right there. So I just got a pen. Somewhere in the house I have a carpenter pencil, but I couldn't find it. So we basically take and we mark our 76. And then we take our square, bring the wood over here where your pen mark is. And I can't use the square here because there's a big knot right here that's making it go sort of out of sync. So just turn the square around to this side here where it's flatter, and bring it over to where your mark is. Line it up, and then take your pen and go right across a few times so that you can see it when you go to cut it. Voila. Bring it over this way. Guess I don't need those gloves right at the moment. Our safety glasses, a few things that you might need, your measuring tape, your safety glasses. Now, I just brought these out for the sake of showing you. I don't need to use it in this particular instance, but these are different size. They're called clamps, and you can find them in any hardware store, and there's different kinds. There's steel ones. These happens to be DeWalt. They're sort of plastic and metal. So just want to show you. So we have the mark here basically, and this is how, if you want to be super precise, you can take and you can bring your square over here. You want to line up your saw with where your line is, which is right there. Bring the square over to it. Perfect. Set the saw back down. Take your clamp and clamp it on. So I'll do one this way. I don't like to use them personally. And like I said, it's not for this job anyway. I don't need to be that precise. So it's clamped on. Because this is a corded electric saw, I always get in the habit of putting that cord behind my leg when I go to cut, because you can very easily cut it off. You don't want to do that. Put your safety glasses on, and then bring your saw up to where your line is. You've got it marked, so this plate here on the circular saw is going to come right up against the square, and you'll be precise. Yeah, it's hitting a knot. Okay. So we're hitting a knot here, guys. And I'm stuck. You guys probably can't see that, but I'm going to bring this piece of wood over to show you what I'm hitting. It's a bit awkward. You see right here the knot? Yeah, so that's what I'm hitting. So we may have to go through it 1 or 2 times, and I'm not going to be using that. So I'm putting that out of the way. These clamps out of my way. But I just wanted to show you a few of the tools that you can use to do this job. So let's put this back down. And actually, I can see at the cut here as well, when I hit that knot, it threw my blade off a little bit, and I'm sort of going, it made it go awkward. So we're just going to cut it again. Yeah, so you just throw that over there. So this piece is done, even though it does have a little bit of a kink to it. It's better than the 2 pieces that are over here on this side of me. So let me just put this back up here. So these 3 pieces are cut. The other thing I wanted to show you, this one's already cut, but I want to show you. So sometimes when you're using wood that's been used before, like in this case, it has some staples in it, or a nail or a screw or whatever, and if you don't see it and you happen to be cutting with your circular saw and it hits that metal, sometimes it can ruin your blade. And these blades are fairly expensive, so you don't really want to do that, right? So I had to be very careful when I was, and I will eventually pull all these out, but for today, I didn't have time for that. Okay, so the 4th one and the final one, originally I was going to use this piece right here, but you guys probably can't see just how twisted this is. Let me set it down here on the table and maybe you will be able to see that. There you go. Like, that's super twisted. And so it's twisted back at the very, toward you guys, and like way that way. And then it comes back up this way. So this was not a good choice. Originally, when I brought it out, I thought it was a good choice, but it doesn't mean that it's no good. I can cut it up and use it for something smaller, like a smaller project that I'm working on. You never throw out wood. So we're going to go with the one here that's less twisted. And I've already cut off, squared off the end pieces. And so those are straight. but I just have to decide, you know, which side is which side I want to cut off. So that's important for measuring. So you just take a look at the wood, and really both sides are somewhat twisted. And I'm looking at the wood and I'm thinking to myself, that it would be better to have this part of it cut off. So we're going to take our measuring tape and our pen. And to some degree too, when I get it back inside, I'll be able to tweak that a little bit when I put the four legs and the top going across it and tie everything in, right? Do you remember what we're measuring? 76 or 73? 76. So we come over here. Well, the good thing about it is there's a huge knot here and there's a huge knot there. So we're going to be cutting those off. So we put our mark there, like so. We grab our square. And before I forget, you want to make sure that there's no metal in the way, so you look at all sides. Looks okay. And we're going to go with right here. So we bring our square up to the line, line it up, and then mark it. Voila. We've already got our safety glasses on, so we're just going to cut that end piece off. The electrical wire is behind my leg, so I'm not going to accidentally cut that. And you know, you get used to the weight of it too, everybody, as you start using it. Like, and the other thing too is that there's a guide right here so that you can follow that guide, and plus you have the line on marked on your wood, so you just follow along with that guide, right? And after you've used it enough, you'll be able to figure it out. And you know what, you probably have enough people in your life, a neighbor, a brother, a father, you know, a friend, even, you know, a girlfriend that knows how to use different equipment. And so don't be afraid to ask somebody, even the person at the hardware store, right? If you have a question, like, you know, if you don't really, if you've read your manual and you can't figure out how to get this bolt off to change your blade, well then go ask the hardware personnel, right? How do I do this? And they'll be happy to explain it to you. Or you know what? Do a YouTube video, and you know, if I get around to it, maybe I'll take the blade off and show you. But right now it's a good blade. I don't need to. Anyway, let's proceed with cutting this to size. This is, as I said, this is my final leg. You wait till the blade stops spinning and then you set it down. Pick up the scrap, throw it in there, put the finished piece over here. So there's our 4 pieces. I've already done one top piece, but the other one is not done yet. These suckers are a bit heavy too. Ugh. As I mentioned, this is rough wood, and as you can see by the looks of some of this wood here, you know, this is where the bark was when they're putting it through the mill. This is what you end up having. So I've cut off the end pieces. I've squared those up already, and I just need to basically have a look at it and see which end that I want to use, like to go across the top of the wooden frame that I'm building over top of the thing. So I can tell that this side over here is got quite a few imperfections in it, and I believe that this side is straighter right here. So I'm basically going to take my measuring tape from here, and then we're going to mark it over there, and we're going 97 inches. So you measure, I'm measuring 97. And we mark 97 right there. We take our square, find where we marked it. Here it is. We bring it up to the little mark, and then we draw a line right across. There we go. I don't like to cut from this way, so I'm going to turn it around. That's just a preference, right? Now, the other thing too is, I mean, I have a foldable table set up here. Most of the time I just use my wheelbarrow to cut off. I used to have what's called sawhorses or workhorses or whatever, but I always found them too tall, and I was always lifting my arm up and I couldn't quite see where my marking was to cut. So I ended up taking those workhorses back to the hardware store and getting a refund because they just were no good for me. So sometimes I use the table, sometimes I use a wheelbarrow, sometimes I use the back of my truck, sometimes I just pick up the wood and hold it while I'm cutting. You do what feels best for you. The other thing too about this this wood, rough wood, if you want to, I mean, you can. It's rough because they didn't put it through a planer and they didn't make it smooth, right? I do have an electric planer inside, but I'm not going to use it in this particular job because I plan on painting this structure probably white. I think I probably will go with white. I might go with black. I haven't decided because my cabinets are white and I think it might look okay with black. I don't know yet. Either way, I don't have the paint yet. And so it might be what's on sale, or I think my sister was mentioning too that she had some paint or something. So anyway, let's go ahead and we're going to cut this off. And I am going to actually bring the wheelbarrow over a little bit. Just to give it a little bit of stability when I'm cutting, because this is a longer piece. When it's cutting, the weight of as it's cutting can make some of your wood splinter, and I don't want that. All right, last piece, guys. Okay, there's too much of a, this is higher than the table, so there's too much of a pressure on it, and that's what caused it. If I would have pushed it, forced it through, it would have jumped on me, and so it's important to have an even surface that you're working on. So it's like literally not even 1/8 of an inch. So we're just going to go back through, and I'm going to take this this guard here. It's called a guard, and I'm going to lift it up, and I'm going to put it inside the cut that's already there. We're going to go right through. So, unbeknownst to me, I was leaned up on the wheelbarrow, and this is what I mean when I say that it can splinter. So the wood, it left a little tiny divot there. Can you see that, guys? Right here. Anyway, I'm going to cut that off now. And this piece here is not going to go in the wheelbarrow for burning. I'm going to keep that. You never know what I might need it for. So it's just basically a tiny little divot here. Voila, we're done. Well, I'm not done. I gotta drag all this stuff back inside again and clean up my mess, and we're supposed to get snow tomorrow. So last thing I wanted inside the house, you can't see it, but there's a ton of sawdust here, and the last thing I wanted in the house was, you know, sawdust everywhere, and all the dishes and the pots and pans and electronics and things like that. So thank you very much. I hope that you can see that it's not as scary as it might sound, because, you know, you have a piece of metal that's spinning around and cutting wood, and it sounds a little scary, but it's really not. And you know, you probably can do lots of jobs yourself. You just need to give yourself and have yourself a little bit of confidence to do it, and you can get it done. So thanks for joining me today. Hopefully my button's turned on, and you all stay safe out there. Bye for now, everyone. No, guess it's not on.